Well, it's Friday Eve, as we like to say around here. Good evening. Welcome to Spicer & Company. I'm Sean Spicer. Lindsay's out today. Well, a disappointing vote in the Senate. Earlier today, Xavier Becerra, we've been talking about him for a while. He was confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services by a vote of 50 to 49. That close. And guess what? He was only able to slide by because Susan Collins, senator from Maine, who is technically a Republican, voted for him. Now, we've mentioned all the problems with Xavier Becerra. He's a pro-abortion former attorney general out in California. But even if Senator Collins was fine with that, I cannot believe anyone, much less any Republican senator, would vote for a guy with no prior experience in the area of health care. We're in a pandemic, and the guy has no health care experience. Seriously, this is like one of those days that you should shake your head and go, only in Washington can this actually happen. There's days where I wonder if Republicans even are serious about stopping some of this stuff. Now, we'll get to that confirmation later in the day and the implications from it. But we've also been talking a lot about the crisis at the border the last few days. And the Biden administration, have you heard us say this over and over again? They're refusing to use the word crisis. Well, guess what? Today at the White House briefing, the press secretary used the word. But then something happened. Take a listen.
There have been expectations set outside of unrelated to any vaccine doses or requests for them that they would be partners in dealing with the crisis on the border.
When you were talking a moment ago about diplomatic negotiations between the United States and Mexico, you said crisis on the border. Was that a
challenges on the border?
I meant challenges, and they're both C words. It's so, I mean, it was like the reporters were even like, you said crisis. We've been talking about crisis, and you said it. But then it was, I got to walk that back and say challenges, because we can't use that word, right? That's how it goes. Well, you got to check this out, though. Yesterday on Capitol Hill, there was a hearing, and Florida Congresswoman and friend of the show, Kat Kamak, she was on the committee that had the Homeland Security Secretary in front of them. And she asked him an amazing question. Check this out.
Can you tell me what FEMA stands for?
The Federal Emergency Management Administration.
Excellent. So since FEMA has been now deployed to the border, that would stand to reason that there is an emergency on the border, correct?
Congresswoman, perhaps you did not hear me.
Yes or no will suffice.
We have a very serious challenge at the border, and we are tackling it.
Man, I love that exchange. She got him so good. She's like, he thought he got a softball. She's like, do you know what FEMA stands for? He's like, oh, yeah. Federal Emergency Management Administration. And then all of a sudden she's like, boom. Why aren't you, if you're sending in a federal agency in charge of handling emergencies, isn't therefore an emergency a crisis? And he's like, that wasn't expecting the follow-up question, Congresswoman. It's a challenge, because that's what the White House says I'm supposed to say. Now, some media outlets are calling the Biden administration out for this, but the majority of the left-wing media is letting the White House continue to skate by for not calling a spade a spade. But remember this, when the coverage of President Trump, when he was trying to tackle the pandemic, take a listen to this, because it's important how they frame what he was saying about COVID.
President Trump in the battleground state of Arizona overnight, downplaying the pandemic, arguing Americans are tired of hearing about COVID.
As the president tried to downplay the concerns of a second wave of the coronavirus in the fall.
The president is calling the book a political hit job and saying he only downplayed the danger from the virus because he didn't want to create a panic.
You have Donald Trump saying nothing to worry about here. Move along.
Despite evidence the president's handling of the virus has hurt him in the polls, he's down 8, according to the latest CBS Battleground tracker. The president continues to minimize COVID's impact.
Downplay, minimize. Notice the double standard here. Trump supposedly minimizing COVID, but there's a crisis on the southern border in our country, and this president refuses to say it. But the media won't hold him accountable the same way they did with Trump. Now, it goes a little bit further. The DHS secretary did an interview on CBS this morning. Listen first. This is the important part. First of all, I want you to listen to the question that the so-called reporter asked him about migrant children at the border.
If you say to them this morning, do not come, the next question is going to be, how long do I wait, and what am I waiting for? Is there going to come a moment where you say, okay, now's the time?
How long do you wait? I mean, that shows you the mentality of the reporters. We don't, this isn't like you're at some kind of store waiting to get in. We are a nation of laws. And you don't just get to wait and say, hey, I had an appointment to come in. Can I just come in because I've been waiting 20 minutes? This is our country. We have a border. We have laws. And the default from the reporter right there is, hey, when are you going to let him in? It presumes there's a right to just come in whenever you want. Forget the law. Come on in. But the thing is, I get it. There are serious problems and plights that a lot of these guys have. I feel for them. But that doesn't mean that you just get to show up and come in whenever you want. We have a system. You have to follow it. It's a privilege to come into this country. We are a welcoming country. I hope that we can continue to take care of a lot of people. But you don't get to just show up and come in. And unfortunately, that's the default of most of the folks in the media. Now, we saw the question. Here's the secretary's answer.
Some children might not wait. Some loving parents might send their child to traverse Mexico alone to reach the southern border, our southern border. I hope they don't undertake that perilous journey, but if they do, we will not expel that young child. We will care for that young child and unite that child with a responsible parent. That is who we are as a nation, and we can do it.
So we're telling them, don't come. But if you don't listen to us and you do come anyway, we're going to lay out a welcome mat and, welcome you with open arms. I mean, that's literally like calling a restaurant and they say, well, we're closed, but if you come, we'll let you come pick off the menu and feed you anyway, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You can't tell them on one hand, don't come, but if you do come, we're going to lay out the welcome mat. We'll give you food. We'll give you clothing. We'll give you all these benefits. It doesn't work. What do you think they're going to do? Hello? All right, well, there's another double standard in all of this as well. The Biden administration's lack of transparency when it comes to all this. Now, remember how he promised to be the most transparent president ever? Well, even NBC News can't now ignore the fact that this administration's silencing border agents and limiting the media's access to them about what's really happening on the border. And it's not just the media. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says state and local authorities are being kept in the dark. He says the Biden administration is not being transparent with either the governor of Texas or the Texas Department of State Health Services. We need to know what the health situation of these kids are. We need to know if they're being exposed to variants of COVID. The governor says that they're also refusing to share information that will help arrest migrants still involved with smugglers. So they're muzzling the border agents from talking to the media, not sharing information. But remember just a year ago, the criticism that the media had of the Trump White House when it came to COVID? Another comparison there. The Washington Post said Dr. Fauci was being sidelined by the White House when it came to the pandemic. Talk about a double standard. It's okay. It wasn't okay for the Trump administration to muzzle government employees. But when the Biden administration does it with respect to our border and border agents, well, that's different. Let's go to double standard number 3, since we're on a roll here. To their credit, some of the media have actually been asking why the president hasn't visited the border and has no plans to do it. Well, here's White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki's response.
He talks to plenty of officials, and he also has received a briefing with photos and directly from his team who went and visited the border.
Oh, he gets photos. Okay. He doesn't have to go because he gets photos. That's okay, right? Well, here's how the media mocked President Trump when it came to using photos as part of his intelligence briefing. Donald Trump likes his intelligence briefing filled with pictures, says a new report. The president is not known for being a heavy reader. It's the same thing, a mirror image, right? One likes photos, the other likes photos. Okay, who cares? But when it was Trump, they mocked it. But because it's Biden, no, totally different. Now, remember earlier this week, ABC's George Stephanopoulos had a lengthy sit-down with President Biden. He could have pressed him on all these issues, on his immigration policies, leading to a crisis at the border, on why reporters aren't getting access to those facilities, on his mixed messaging. But he got in one really important question. Check this one.
We also got an update on Major after that biting incident.
Out of the doghouse?
Seems like it, yeah.
Right.
I got to see him last night.
Why get to those important issues when you can talk about the dog? Glad to see that we're covering the big important issues. Before we continue, though, I got to show you one more exchange from Congresswoman Kat K. Max questioning of the DHS secretary. It was a gem. Check this one out.
Do you support the walls around the capital region?
What wall are you speaking of? The fencing, Congresswoman?
Yes, the 10-foot wall fencing with razor wire around it.
Congresswoman, that is a
Just a
issue
yes or no.
that Congresswoman, if I may, that is an issue that I have not studied. I've left to the security experts.
You've got to be kidding me. I have not studied it. Mr. Secretary, it's the capital of the United States. You don't need to study it. There's a massive fence. There's National Guard troops. Do you need to borrow some of the president's photos? Because I'm sure they can lend them to you. I've left that to the security experts. Oh my goodness. I wish Congresswoman Kamak had more time to explain to him that he's supposed to be in charge. The experts report to him. He is the top federal official in charge of security. And he doesn't have an update on the security surrounding the Capitol, the fencing. Oh, brother.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.